10 years ago, I was a completely different person. I'm not talking about appearance or status, but about the way I viewed the value of life. It was a dark period when an unexpected event, a serious diagnosis, suddenly made all my plans and ambitions feel fragile. Those endless nights, I had to face my fears and confront the reality of my own limitations. Yet it was in that harsh trial that I discovered the most important lesson. True strength doesn't come from avoiding pain, but from mastering your mind in the face of adversity. There are lessons in life that only sink in after a decade of listening to yourself, stumbling, and getting back up again. These lessons are not found in books, nor are they empty words of encouragement. They are the quiet growth that happens in each moment, when you silently ask yourself, who am I amidst the storms of life? Amid the relentless pace of work, responsibility, and invisible pressures, more and more people are realizing that building a resilient mind is the ultimate weapon to face challenges. That is why I want to share with you the 10 most profound lessons it took me 10 years to learn. Morning secrets to build an unbreakable spirit. Stay with me through lesson 10, because only when you reach the final lesson will you understand that every effort, every challenge, and even every old wound is part of a worthwhile journey toward a resilient mind and a truly meaningful life. 1. No one can control everything, but everyone can control themselves. In the whirlwind of modern life, control often feels like a mirage, tantalizing but forever just out of reach. We plan, we prepare, and yet, so much remains subject to the unpredictable. Economies shift, relationships evolve, and health can falter without warning. The more we strive to micromanage every detail, the more the weight of the uncontrollable presses down on us. Anxiety grows, frustration festers, and we find ourselves exhausted by an endless battle against circumstances we never truly owned. Yet, amid this chaos, there lies a simple but profound truth. While the world resists our attempts to command it, each of us holds authority over one domain ourselves. This is not a retreat or an act of surrender, but the ultimate act of courage and wisdom. It is an internal revolution, one that demands we turn our gaze inward and reclaim the one power that no fate, no other person can ever take from us. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, wrote Marcus Aurelius. This statement is not merely a philosophical ideal, but a call to practical action. To internalize this lesson is to free ourselves from the endless cycle of disappointment, because we learn to place our energy where it truly matters. Consider those who have faced overwhelming loss or failure. Their stories do not inspire because they controlled every outcome, but because they mastered themselves when life spun out of their grasp. Admiral William H. McRaven, who led countless high-stakes missions, famously advised, "If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed." The task is simple, yet the lesson is profound. It is a daily act of self-discipline, a way to carve out order in a world that rarely offers it. By choosing to govern our own actions, even in small ways, we create a foundation of resilience that no storm can wash away. The real victory is not in subduing the world, but in mastering our own minds and responses. This shift in focus transforms setbacks into opportunities for growth and uncertainty into a proving ground for character. In letting go of the impossible quest to control everything, we rediscover the freedom and strength to direct our own lives, one mindful decision at a time. 2. Your true self-worth does not come from external success. It is easy to believe, especially in the fever of ambition and the noise of modern achievement, that self-worth is measured by titles, paychecks, or public approval. The world rarely questions those who are celebrated, who have reached what is called the top. But when the storms arrive, when careers fall apart, reputations are challenged, and fortunes dissolve, something deeper is revealed. The illusion that your value lies in things that can be taken away fades, and you are left to confront the truth. True self-worth lives far from the reach of applause or failure. There are countless stories of individuals who seemed invincible in the eyes of society, yet at the height of their success, a single turn of fate brought everything crashing down. In those moments, the comfort of status and wealth evaporates. What remains is the character built through adversity, the quiet resolve forged not in public triumph, but in private struggle. When everything external is stripped away, self-worth is no longer a matter of perception, but of substance. This is the lesson that takes years, sometimes a lifetime, to truly absorb. It demands that we ask ourselves, who are we when no one is watching? What do we hold on to when applause ceases and achievements are left behind? The answer lies not in our external victories, but in our inner response to defeat, loss, or misunderstanding. Take, for instance, those who have experienced public defeat or humiliation, individuals who, for years, were defined by their accolades, only to be cast aside when fortunes changed. For some, such moments of collapse are breaking points. For others, they become the beginning of something far more profound. The choice is not between holding on to old glories or sinking into despair, but rather between letting the outer world define us and rediscovering the quiet certainty within. When the actor Matthew McConaughey turned down roles that did not align with his authentic self, he risked obscurity but gained clarity and dignity by choosing, in effect, to build his worth on something indestructible. Here, the wisdom of the ancients speaks to us across the centuries. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Your mind will be like its habitual thoughts, for the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In this simple line, he reminds us that value is not an external endowment, but an internal cultivation. If your thoughts are painted by the judgments of others, your sense of worth will flicker and fade with every change in fortune. But if you ground yourself in integrity, resilience, and kindness, qualities that no one can take away, your worth is untouchable. The solution, then, is to build a foundation rooted in personal virtues and the courage to live by them, especially when no one else is looking. External success can amplify your voice for a time, but only your inner strength will carry you through silence, loss, and reinvention. That is the self-worth no storm can destroy. 3. Every morning is a new opportunity to start over. 6 months of unemployment had stripped Nick of much more than just a paycheck. As the bills piled up and the silence of rejection emails grew deafening, he found himself sinking into an anxious spiral each night, haunted by a growing sense of uselessness and regret. Yet, instead of letting this darkness define his days, Nick made a quiet pact with himself. Each morning, he forced himself out of bed at 6, no matter how tempting it was to hide beneath the covers. He laced up his shoes, stepped into the crisp morning air, and walked in the park for half an hour, letting the rhythm of his footsteps and the steady breath of nature clear his mind. Back home, he would sit in silence for 10 minutes, letting his thoughts settle before jotting down 3 things he was grateful for. Sometimes nothing more remarkable than a steaming cup of coffee or a sliver of sunlight streaming through the window. These rituals were small, almost invisible to anyone else. But for Nick, they were a lifeline, a gentle reminder that each sunrise offered the chance to try again. This story captures a quiet truth. No day is flawless. Mistakes are made, disappointments happen, and sometimes our confidence falters. The weight of yesterday can press heavily on our shoulders, especially when we feel lost or inadequate. However, mornings hold a rare power. They are an unspoiled canvas, a golden hour to forgive ourselves, let go of yesterday's errors, and choose, once more, who we want to become. The world outside may be unpredictable, but every dawn brings with it a simple promise: you can start over. For many, the struggle is not the absence of failure, but the inability to escape its shadow. It's easy to be haunted by what went wrong, to replay setbacks in our minds until we begin to believe they define us. But by anchoring our mornings in mindful rituals, we reclaim control. A walk, a moment of stillness, a note of gratitude, these are not just habits, they are statements of intent. They say, I am more than my worst day. I am more than yesterday's mistakes. Over time, these small acts transform our relationship with ourselves. We stop expecting perfection and start embracing progress. As Nick discovered, the process of starting over does not always bring instant results. It is a gentle, patient practice, a way of planting seeds for resilience and hope. With every morning comes the chance to become a slightly better version of ourselves, to move one step closer to the life we truly want. But what if failure isn't something to be feared or buried? What if, instead, it could become our greatest teacher? In the next lesson, we'll uncover why failure is not the end, but the very beginning of real growth. Sometimes, it's in falling that we learn how to stand stronger than ever before. 4. Failure is not the end. There is an unspoken fear that haunts many lives, the fear of failure. From early childhood, we are often conditioned to equate mistakes with shame, to see setbacks as blemishes on our journey. Yet, beneath the surface of every significant success story lies a tapestry woven with countless failures, each thread representing a lesson learned, a new direction explored, or a fresh resilience discovered. Failure, despite its reputation, is not a wall, but a doorway. When we stumble, when plans fall apart, and our best intentions yield disappointing results, it is tempting to retreat into self-doubt. But it is precisely in these moments of collapse that the seeds of transformation are sown. Failure strips away illusions. It reveals the reality of who we are, our limits, our fears. but also our untapped potential and our capacity for adaptation. It demands humility, honesty, and a willingness to begin again, often from a place of greater wisdom. History is filled with those who found strength in failure rather than defeat. Thomas Edison, the inventor who gave light to the world, endured thousands of unsuccessful attempts before he created a working light bulb. When questioned about these failures, he famously replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This response was not arrogance, but a recognition of the true nature of progress. Each misstep, each experiment gone awry, was not wasted effort, but essential information. Edison's story is a testament to perseverance, to approach each new day, each new attempt, with curiosity and an open mind, rather than bitterness or regret. What transforms failure from a dead end into a stepping stone is our response to it. If we choose to see setbacks as teachers, not enemies, then every disappointment becomes a lesson, a chance to refine our approach, to question our assumptions, and to grow. Resilience is born not in the absence of difficulty, but in the willingness to endure, to reflect, and to persist. It is in returning to our efforts, sometimes hundreds or thousands of times, that character is forged. The solution is not to fear failure or to avoid challenges for the sake of comfort. Instead, it is to step forward, knowing that failure is an inevitable companion on any path worth traveling. Embrace it, study it, and let it guide your evolution. Over time, you will discover that your setbacks were never dead ends, but vital chapters in the story of your strength. Ultimately, the measure of a life well lived is not how seldom we fall, but how bravely we rise each time we do. 5. Taking care of your mental health is just as important as material success. There's a silent story unfolding behind many driven lives, the quiet neglect of the mind. In pursuit of success, it's tempting to pour every waking hour into work, to measure worth by achievements, and to ignore the signals of strain and exhaustion. Society often celebrates the all-nighters, the sacrifices, and the visible results. But in the shadows of these victories, another truth waits to be learned. Without caring for your mind, even the highest peaks can feel empty. The consequences of this neglect can be devastating. Burnout doesn't just erode motivation, it hollows out joy, creativity, and even the ability to feel present. For some, this slow unraveling leads to anxiety, depression, or a feeling of being lost within one's own life. Many people have walked this difficult road, realizing sometimes only after breaking down that material success means little when the mind is in turmoil. One poignant example comes from those who have wrestled with anxiety and depression, discovering that genuine strength lies not in relentless struggle, but in choosing to nurture their mental well-being. For some, that means finding solace in movement, going for a run or lifting weights, letting the body's rhythm quiet the mind. For others, peace arrives through meditation, breathing exercises, or the simple act of sitting quietly with their thoughts. Even a few minutes a day spent checking in with oneself can become an anchor, restoring balance amidst chaos. Modern science echoes this wisdom. In 2018, Dr. Emma Seppala from Stanford University led a study titled "Breathing-Based Meditation Decreases Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Symptoms in U.S. Military Veterans," a randomized, controlled longitudinal study. The research revealed that even short daily practices like mindful breathing significantly reduced stress, anxiety, and symptoms of PTSD. While the participants were veterans, the core insight applies to anyone. Tending to the mind isn't a luxury, but a necessity for true resilience and fulfillment. This truth is timeless. The philosopher Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." These words capture the heart of why mental care matters. Much of our pain is born not from what happens to us, but from how our unguarded mind magnifies fear, regret, and uncertainty. When we ignore our mental well-being, even small setbacks can become insurmountable. But when we choose to care, we gain the strength to face life's storms with clarity and composure. As we reflect on this lesson, let's take a moment to appreciate the courage it takes to look inward and the wisdom in making time for the mind, no matter how busy life becomes. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for your willingness to grow. If this message resonates with you, please like and subscribe, and join me as we explore our next lesson. Learning to let go is not giving up, but choosing what truly matters. 6. Learning to let go is not giving up. There comes a moment in every life when the weight we carry becomes too heavy, not because we are weak, but because we hold on too tightly to things that no longer serve us. We cling to broken dreams, failed relationships, the echo of old mistakes, or the pressure of expectations we set for ourselves years ago. The irony is, the tighter we grip these burdens, the more they exhaust us, draining both our energy and our hope. It is tempting to believe that holding on is a sign of strength, that perseverance means refusing to let go at any cost. Yet, there is a quiet power in release, a wisdom that whispers sometimes. The bravest act is to loosen our grasp. Letting go is not surrender, it is liberation. It is not the act of giving up, but rather a conscious choice to set ourselves free from what no longer nourishes our soul. So many of us have been taught to equate persistence with stubbornness, to equate release with failure. But in truth, refusing to let go can trap us in patterns of regret and longing, blinding us to new possibilities. Real growth often begins when we open our hands, trusting that something better can arise from the ashes of what we have lost. Consider the journey of Elizabeth Gilbert, author of Eat, Pray, Love. After the heartbreak of a painful divorce, she could have chosen to stay mired in self-blame and sorrow. Instead, she decided to embark on a journey of self-discovery, crossing continents, exploring unfamiliar cultures, and ultimately learning to accept herself. Gilbert's story is not one of defeat, but of transformation. By releasing her attachment to a particular version of her past, she gave herself permission to heal, to forgive, and to embrace new chapters of meaning. Through letting go, she didn't lose herself. She found herself anew. This process is not without its challenges. The mind resists change, preferring the familiarity of old wounds over the uncertainty of a blank slate. Fear often masquerades as loyalty to the past, telling us that to release is to betray who we once were. But As Epictetus once said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. To let go is to accept this wisdom, that peace comes not from controlling every outcome, but from understanding what belongs to us and what never did. When we learn to let go of grudges, unmet expectations, and the narrative that we must always endure, we allow space for growth. We discover that acceptance is not resignation, but a declaration of self-respect. In the morning quiet, as we breathe deeply and set our intentions for the day, we can remind ourselves, letting go is not defeat, but a courageous act of self-love. In that release, we find both the freedom and the strength to move forward. 7. Self-discipline creates true freedom. Many people hear the word discipline and recoil, imagining rules, restrictions, or even a kind of self-imposed prison. But this is a surface-level misunderstanding. True self-discipline is not a chain that binds you. It is the key that unlocks your greatest freedom. When your actions are guided by intention rather than impulse, you become the author of your own story instead of a character swept along by the plot. In the rush of daily life, it is easy to feel controlled by outside forces, emails, deadlines, expectations, or the persistent pull of social media and entertainment. You wake up, and immediately the day seems to happen to you, not with you. But there is an alternative, and it is forged in the quiet hours of morning. A conscious decision to set your own course, starting with simple routines. The discipline to wake up before the world demands your attention, to move your body, to nourish your mind with a few pages of a book or a few minutes of reflection, and to plan your day. These habits are the foundation stones of personal freedom. Consider those who have made self-discipline part of their daily ritual. The person who exercises each morning is not enslaved by the alarm clock, but liberated by the energy, clarity, and confidence it brings. The one who writes down their priorities before distractions can creep in is not rigid. They are free to pursue what truly matters, unburdened by the chaos that traps so many. In this way, discipline is not a barrier. It is a bridge to the life you choose, rather than the one that just happens. This truth was beautifully captured centuries ago in the words of a wise philosopher. No man is free who is not master of himself. Mastery does not mean suppressing desires or emotions, but aligning them with your highest goals. When you possess self-discipline, your choices are no longer dictated by fleeting moods or the demands of others. You experience real autonomy, the rare, unshakable freedom that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. Yet, this freedom is not won in a single day. It is built moment by moment, decision by decision, especially in the small, quiet acts that few will ever see. Over the years, these small acts of discipline become invisible wings, lifting you above the ordinary into a life of purpose. And as you master the art of discipline, you begin to notice something unexpected. The beauty of the present, the gentle details that color your day. This leads naturally to the next lesson, one that many overlook, but those who have learned it know its power. Lesson 8 is about gratitude, how being grateful for the little things every day can change everything. Stay with me, because the next insight may surprise you and transform the way you see your world. 8. Be grateful for the little things every day. Imagine life as a vast canvas waiting to be colored in each morning. Most people spend their days chasing after the boldest, brightest career milestones, major achievements, and dramatic turning points. But what if the deepest satisfaction is actually woven from those gentle brushstrokes that seem almost invisible? The sunlight falling softly on your kitchen table, the sound of a friend's voice, the peace of a slow, mindful breakfast. Like the finest works of art, a fulfilling life is less about grand gestures and more about noticing the quiet beauty that is always, quietly, within reach. Too often, we're taught to believe that happiness is found in the pursuit of the extraordinary. We set our sights on distant goals, promising ourselves joy once I get there. Yet, life's most profound joys have a way of sneaking in during ordinary moments. The warmth of a morning coffee, the comfort of a gentle breeze, the simple reassurance of being alive. When we focus only on chasing bigger, better things, these everyday miracles fade into the background and gratitude slips through our fingers. But here's the truth. Gratitude is not a feeling reserved for special occasions or major victories. It is a practice, a discipline, a lens through which the world transforms. The moment you consciously pause and acknowledge even the smallest good thing, you reclaim power over your own experience. You become the artist, choosing the colors that define your day. Consider the daily ritual of renowned speaker Tony Robbins. No matter how demanding his schedule, he begins each morning with a priming routine, actively listing things he is grateful for. Sometimes it's as simple as the sound of his children's laughter or the opportunity to breathe fresh air. This intentional act, repeated day after day, becomes a shield against negativity, a springboard for resilience. Even when he faces immense pressure, this practice centers him, reminding him that there is always something to celebrate. For anyone feeling overwhelmed, lost, or simply numb to the pace of modern life, gratitude is a gentle remedy. It doesn't mean denying struggle or pretending that pain does not exist. Instead, it's about anchoring yourself in the present, acknowledging that amidst every storm, there are always moments, however small, that deserve recognition. If you want to build a strong mind, start here. Each morning, before the world's demands take over, name 3 things, no matter how small, that you're grateful for. Over time, you'll find your perspective shifting, your heart softening, your resilience growing. Life's masterpiece is painted one humble brushstroke at a time. What are the little things that make your day brighter? Share them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what brings you joy, no matter how small. 9. No one should isolate their emotions. For too long, people have been taught that true strength means keeping a straight face, swallowing every ache, and forging ahead as if emotions were mere obstacles on the path to success. Society quietly rewards those who appear unshakable, who mask their turmoil behind a practiced smile or a stoic silence. Yet, beneath that calm surface, emotional wounds fester, growing heavier, more painful, and far more damaging than the world ever sees. The tragedy is not the presence of pain, but the silent isolation that so often accompanies it. Emotions, especially the difficult ones, are not signs of weakness or failures of character. They are as natural and vital to our human experience as breathing. When sorrow, anger, fear, or doubt arise, the instinct to bury them deep can seem protective, even noble. Yet this self-imposed solitude does not heal. It builds invisible walls that slowly close in, suffocating joy, authentic connection, and the chance for real healing. Many have discovered, after years of suppressing their pain, that the effort to be strong often leaves them lonelier and more fragile than they ever intended. Consider the journey of Terry Crews, an individual known for his physical strength and public confidence. He once believed that true resilience meant hiding every trace of fear or vulnerability. But carrying that secret pain grew heavier with every year. Only when he began to voice his struggles, to openly share what weighed on his heart, did he find real freedom. That act of speaking, of choosing openness over isolation, didn't diminish his strength. On the contrary, it transformed it. His willingness to acknowledge and express his emotions not only brought him relief, but also gave courage to countless others struggling in silence. What does this teach us? The first step to building a truly strong mind is not in resisting emotion, but in learning to face it with honesty and compassion. It means recognizing that every feeling is an invitation to listen, to understand, to connect with oneself and with others. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we grant others permission to do the same. In sharing our struggles, we discover we are not alone. In expressing our pain, we invite healing. Morning rituals of reflection, journaling, or quiet conversation can become the space where emotions are gently acknowledged rather than banished. In these moments, we give ourselves permission to feel fully, and in so doing, lay the foundation for resilience that is both authentic and unbreakable. True strength is not the absence of emotion, but the courage to embrace it, share it, and ultimately grow beyond it. 10. Small actions every day create big changes. We often hear about the power of great ambition, the inspiring speeches, the bold resolutions, the grand gestures that promise to change the trajectory of our lives. Yet, time and time again, reality teaches us a quieter but deeper truth. Real, lasting change is rarely the result of a single leap, but the product of countless small steps, repeated with intention and care each day. It is easy to underestimate the impact of small actions. Modern life glorifies overnight success and sudden transformation, but beneath every visible achievement is a foundation built on daily habits, often invisible to the outside world. The difference between those who grow steadily and those who remain stuck lies not in rare flashes of brilliance, but in the discipline to show up, however imperfectly, every single morning. Take the example of Benjamin Franklin, whose personal discipline and intellectual legacy still inspire centuries later. Every morning, Franklin would sit down with his journal and ask himself a simple but powerful question: what good shall I do this day? This ritual wasn't just about keeping a diary, it was an act of self-commitment. By revisiting his intentions at the break of each day, he gently steered his actions, reinforcing his values and keeping his goals clear in the midst of distractions. These quiet, consistent acts shaped his mind, sharpened his judgment, and enabled him to weather the storms of public and private life alike. The challenge, then, is not to chase after radical change or to wait for motivation to strike. Instead, it is to recognize the quiet might of daily rituals. A morning spent in reflection, even for just a few minutes, can anchor us in gratitude and clarity. A short walk, a mindful breakfast, a single page written or read. These are seeds sown into the soil of our consciousness, growing stronger with each repetition. Moreover, small actions compound over time in ways that dramatic efforts rarely do. Like the gentle but persistent flow of water that carves canyons, habits shape not just our routines, but our very character. It is in the daily act of returning to our values, however ordinary the moment, that we lay the bricks of a resilient, adaptable mind. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by the distance between where you are and where you want to be, remember that every transformation begins in miniature. You do not need to move mountains in a day. You only need to move one small stone, and then another, and another. Each morning is a new opportunity. The path to a strong mind is not paved in grand proclamations, but in the steadfast, humble choice to act quietly, persistently, and with intention day after day. Some life lessons seem simple at first, but only years of experience reveal their true value. The journey to a strong and resilient mind is not achieved overnight. It is built through willpower, discipline, and persistence, day after day. The wisdom we've explored today is not just distant philosophy, but a practical guide that starts with small actions every morning. If you find yourself struggling amid life's storms, remember, your mind is the strongest ore you have. With steady daily practice, you'll find the strength to keep moving forward, no matter what life brings. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 10 lessons resonates with you most deeply? What small actions do you practice every day to build your own strong mind? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, there's much more ahead. Check out the next videos at the end of this one and join me on this journey toward a stronger mind together.